quarantine. There we go. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Weekly Roundup. I'm Scott Goodfellow. This is Ben Hart.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
This platform requires a little more toggling back and forth, so we will do that at the best of our ability.
Absolutely.
But let's get started here. What's in the news today? I saw something interesting, right? What's going on in American politics today?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question. Is there something new or somebody famous died? Is that the thing in American politics? There was the senator from California. She was 90, one of the kind of early leaders. She was early mayor of San Francisco, long-time senator. That was in the news. That got attention. Okay. She passed away.
Oh, I didn't get that. No, Republican spending plan fails House vote, fueling federal government shutdown fears.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So I thought we could talk about what happens to the market if the government shuts down. What's typically, it wouldn't be the first time that's happened, right?
Yeah, I'd say 5 years ago is the first time it happened. It caused a little bit of upset, disruption as they battled it back and forth to figure out who is going to take what concession to get there. And, ultimately what happens the same time, or at least has happened, and maybe you shouldn't get complacent about it, but what's happened is that they come to an agreement, they turn things back on, but effectively they stop paying their bills for a short period of time. And only pay the necessity, the things that they're responsible to pay on an ongoing basis. Ultimately, the debt ceiling just gets revised and they move on. It's a self-imposed system that they've put in place to get here. So unless it's a different this time, it's possible, but most likely what they do is they come to some kind of future agreement after some concessions from each side.
Gotcha. Okay. What else happened this week that you want to touch on this past week?
Yeah, I think a little. So I mentioned, I think the daily today, just about a couple of retailers, Nike and Aritzia, had actually beat their earnings expectations today. Stocks were up kind of 10% on that news. Inventories look like they're starting to work down in both cases. So that was a big buildup and overhang on these retailers over the last, I'd say, 6-9 months. And you're starting to see them work through inventory with sales and so on and so forth. So maybe we're seeing kind of the early bottoming of some of the retail names. I know my comments around the economy and where we are in the cycle would tend to say maybe that's wrong, but stocks tend to bottom before the economic data. And maybe we're seeing that now with some of those retailers. So that was pretty interesting for me when I saw those numbers today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? You want to just jump to the slides?
Yeah, lots of attention around what's going on with the economy, inflation. Those are primarily where my questions come right now, and interest rates, of course, what's happening with bonds. So we'll touch on that a bit in the slides, but that's really been the core focus of what people have been asking about.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see if you can figure out how to put these slides up here.
All right, let's try this. Let me see if we can see it.
First try.
Did it.
Great job.
Did it. Thank you. Yeah, so this is updated as of today, actually. It's real time. And so, as I said, and I've been saying for probably a month now, our economic forecast didn't line up at all with the Bank of Canada's views. And looks like so far we've been right on that. So when we look at these numbers, higher inflation, but more sluggish economic growth. And so if we look at, this is Q1, Bank of Canada versus what actually happened. So Bank of Canada expected 3.1, we got 2.6. And then in Q2, Bank of Canada was expecting 1.5%, and they got minus 0.2%. And then forecasted, so this is based off of 2 months of data, obviously 1 month still to come through. Do I think August was a blockbuster month? I'd say probably not, especially as energy prices started to run up into August. So Bank of Canada still had GDP at 1.5, and we're presently forecasting that to be about 0.1 or 0-ish%. So yeah, we still think that they have the view on where growth is wrong. And that's, I think, going to have an influence as to what they do with rates. I know everyone says, if inflation doesn't come down, they're going to keep raising rates. I tend to disagree. If the economic activity gets to zero or on the negative side of zero, it's going to have an influence around what they do with rates. So I think this was a good update on the economic numbers. See the next one there? Looks like it. So the other is what's expected to happen with Fed funds futures. So that was Canada, which I said and showed you before. This is the expectations for the US. I think the US is actually closer to done than potentially Canada, depending what they do here. But this is the view, what happens over the next 6 months, next 3 months in the blue line, and then 6 months in the red line, and over the next 12 months, the grayish and bluish line. So in all cases, they're zero to cutting in the next 12 months. So I'd say this is certainly worth paying attention to and thinking about what happens to rates from here. So we'd expect that. Presently right now, the next FOMC meeting, they're forecasting a 20% chance of a rate increase. So still looks like pretty much that they're on the sidelines unless something materially happens to GDP, which I don't think is likely to happen, but certainly something that we need to continue to be conscious of. So two more quick ones. I go guess what's happening. We always have that thought about what's going on ahead of us. So nothing too material. I'd say Monday ISM manufacturing. A lot of attention continues to go towards that in the US. So that's Monday data. And then out on to Friday, we have unemployment in both Canada and the US. Our view is unemployment is ticking up in both places. Canada's economic numbers probably unemployment rate starts to tick up right now. National Bank thinks kind of 0.2 to 0.3% increase in unemployment. So again, that's these lagging indicators are the ones that we need to see before the Bank of Canada could feel like they were done. So economic activity slowing, unemployment rates rising. The only piece that continues to be a little bit more sticky is that inflation number. So we'll see what happens. But I think probabilities still line up with that they're done with their rate increases. So that'd be what we'd be looking at on that side of things.
Great.
So I'd say last one, mostly a fun one or education one or potentially one that people could use. And so we get this question all the time, Scott, where people ask, can I do my will myself? And so I had a client this week that had told me about this, going through and using Willful to go through and do their own will. Actually, I looked at the website, went through the information, asked the lawyer about it, and they said it's pretty good and pretty thorough. The kind of the top end package is around $330, which is something like 70% less than what you pay for going to a lawyer. So if you have kids or somebody younger trying to put something in place, it seems like a pretty good tool. It actually registers the will as well, so that you have something in the system. Something were to happen. So, technology continues to go quite quickly. I thought this was a pretty cool site and certainly worth poking around. And the information continues to come a long way as to what people have access to.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it.
That's
so when you talk
that's
to
practical.
When you talk to the lawyer, were they nervous about it, or?
So not really. I mean, I think the view is, as you get a little bit older and more, I'd say more of our clients with money and, might be multiple properties and assets and maybe a holdco or a corporation or some things a little more complicated. The lawyers still know that the probabilities are they're still going to be used. They're still going to want somebody to actually physically hold that if something were to happen to them. So I don't think they were that worried. As I say, I think it's a good tool to allow people as their first entryway. And the lawyer that I spoke to said that they agreed with that as well. And I can't remember what that stat was, but we had that update from McKinsey. I think it was something like 70% of people, was it 70%, 65, 70% of people still die without a will. So, some optimism around that there's a way for people to do that themselves and actually put it in place temporary. And if they need something more complicated, then they can go to lawyer.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we have coming up for the week ahead? Is it a short week? There's some confusion about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a short week for some people.
Not for us.
Not
for
us.
That's
Not
for
for
sure.
us. Exactly. Markets are still open, so things are still being done. I'd say the following week, at least in Canada, we have a holiday. Markets are closed on the Monday, I believe, with Thanksgiving. So that'll be a quieter day, but most of the attention goes towards the U.S. markets anyways. So if U.S. markets are open, there's plenty of activity to pay attention to. So we'll have the full week here next week. Following week can be shortened, but this is the end of September. Today, the last day in September. Markets closed pretty mixed here. NASDAQ up slightly. Both Dow and TSX finished down for the week, and bonds and gold are up a little bit into the close here. So I'd say let's see what happens next week. There was a lot of volatility in September, as there often is, as people come back to work, as I think we talked about end of August. So let's see what happens into October. See where the time and attention goes. But yeah, pretty choppy month in September, and so lots to follow next week.
Right. Okay. Any final words before we enter this beautiful weekend of ours?
The last thing that we've been doing for some people as we get into here, there's flow through shares. It's probably the last pass that we'll have that opportunity where some of the companies are still coming. Flow through shares are mining, energy, base metals investments that give you 100% tax deduction outside of your RSP. So it's the only kind of thing that gives you that 100% tax deduction. There's been multiple closes in September. I think there's one or two more closes into October. So people need some tax deductions before we wrap into year end. Next couple of weeks probably be the last time to do that. So if you want to chat about those, give us a call, let us know. I'd say that's kind of the most topical thing that we've been doing with people the last couple of weeks.
Right. Perfect. Okay, well, I know you're going to be in the rink all weekend. I'm going to be in the rink all weekend. Hope everybody else has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks. Take care, everybody.